Good afternoon when this will be posted. It's the morning right now and I'm going on a little walk to the park. Here I am watching some construction in front of me, but hopefully you don't hear too much of that. Hopefully you just hear the silky sound of my voice out on a nice little walk at the park. I'm recording this outside because my usual recording space is under construction. It's actually less cool than it sounds because I'm just having an aircon put in, but any excuse to go for a walk sounds good to me. Plus, there's not much news this week, so this will be freeballing. I won't be doing any little edits, so you're getting the raw and exclusive Arian. So yeah, here I am at Lenhay Park, just having a nice little sit down, doing the Hemm Productions podcast as I watch a skip bin get put in. Anyway, so what do we have coming out this week? Zootopia 2's the big release of this week. Can't wait to go see that. I might go watch it at the drive-in. I got to see Wicked for Good, and let me tell you, it's no good. So that'll be the main segment for the show. I also watched Train Dreams, which is the latest Netflix release and their biggest punt at Best Picture this year. I also saw Jay Kelly, which is their other punt at Best Picture with, what's his name, George Clooney, and what's his name, Adam Sandler. How am I going so far on the raw and unedited, unfiltered version? Please let me know if you prefer this. Anyway, so 2 punts at Best Picture from Netflix. I saw both of them. I'll give you my thoughts later on. Let's start with the news, though. Hasn't been too special this week. The biggest news story is that Warner Brothers Discovery is up for bidding, with the first bids being put in from Comcast, Netflix, and Paramount Skydance, as we've talked about before. Instead of discussing the ups and downs of each of these companies it could be sold to, I think we'll wait to speculate on it once it's actually sold. But I can say that consolidation is not a good thing, and I feel like this will lead to less movies being produced no matter who buys them. Disney buying Fox has led to about half the amount of movies being released, simply because they form as one studio and they have their own streaming platforms and they don't want to spend as much money when they're all one big company. So if Netflix buys them, it could be devastating, but no further speculation. This is a developing story. I'll update you on it next week. Let's play the news jingle, though, and get into the one story that I actually want to talk about this week. So, Scarlett Johansson is to start, or Johansson? I've never actually looked it up. Anyway, she is going to star in a new Exorcist film from writer-director Mike Flannigan. The Exorcist is one of the masterpieces of the horror genre, in my personal opinion. Wrote a lot of essays on it. And I haven't caught up on the most recent film because everyone seemed to hate it. But Mike Flannigan, director of Dr. Sleep, as well as Life of Chuck, and many other horror classics, he's developing a new Exorcist movie starring ScarJo in the lead. We didn't cover this film on the pod, but ScarJo was in another standalone franchise reboot this year, Jurassic World Rebirth, and that's one of the most horrendous films I've had the pleasure of seeing this year, so her attachment doesn't necessarily confirm that we'll get a good movie. However, I like Mike Flannigan, and I like ScarJo, and I hope we get a decent franchise entry. Now, we're going to skip the box office this week because the website is broken again. Can't wait to get back to you on that next week. Now, I haven't wrote anything down for these next 3 movies, so I'm just going to talk about them off the cuff. Let's start positive. My favorite of the 3 this week would be Jay Kelly. Now, Jay Kelly is about an actor looking back on his life as he prepares for a tribute in Venice, played by George Clooney. It's more of a movie about the relationships he's had in his life, his relationships to movies, and the people's relationships to him and his movies. It's an interesting exploration of starhood and fame, as well as when you get to a certain point in life and feel the need to do things over. Could you do things differently? I found George Clooney to be the best part of the film. I've covered it previously about this movie premiering at Venice, and people suggesting Adam Sandler could have some Oscar hopes, and he's brilliant in the film, the emotional core of the film. That's a plane going over, guys. I told you I'm outside. Anyway, Adam Sandler is also phenomenal, but George Clooney really handles the film. This is Noah Baumbach's latest movie, And I think it's his best movie in a few years, for sure. I liked it more than Marriage Story and White Noise. Probably not as much as Merowitz, but it's just a very slow, contemplative movie. He kind of drifts in and out of his memories in a very cool style, just in media res, not like little dream sequences or whatnot. And yeah, no, it was quite good. It's pretty long. Goes to a lot of different locales. It's like a nice little trip movie. And, more and more people are sort of leaving the story. And this whole time it's becoming more and more clear that the only person in Jake Kelly's life is his manager, Ron. And whether or not their relationship is real. Do they have a proper relationship, or is it purely just business? Does he have any proper relationships, or does he treat anybody and everybody like it's just business? There's lots of great little scenes here. Lots of daddy issues being explored in the movie as well. George has some fantastic scenes with the characters that play both his very different aged daughters. Honestly, I just thought the movie had a lot of juice. Now, it'll be coming to Netflix shortly, with Train Dreams already being on Netflix. And no, I'm a big fan of this one. I recommend everybody to watch it. If you like any movies about Hollywood or big stars, or if you just like a nice reflective drama, I think it's beautifully shot and edited very, very cleanly, paced pretty well. Overall, just a very solid film from Netflix. But its Oscar chances, I think, are quite small, considering it's quite a reserved story. But it is also about the movies, so we'll wait and see. The other film that released is a much quieter, much slower film, Train Dreams. And this movie, I think, is quite fantastic too. It's a more meditative movie. It's about a logger, a man who, cuts down trees for a living, set in the early 1900s, I believe. It starts right at like 1894. And we literally see him from cradle to coffin, this whole man's life. And he's a very quiet man who goes through a tragedy early on in the film, and sort of just how he recovers from it. And we follow this journey, lots of perspective shots from the trees falling down. I found the movie to be very relaxing and beautiful. It's definitely a movie that leaves a lot unsaid. It has a beautiful narration, I will say, and reflects some of the internal struggles of the character, which I prefer it being a narrator rather than just him mindlessly talking. Instead, the lead actor, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and I'm out in the bushes, so I'm not going to look it up. But anyway, I thought he was quite good in the role. Felicity Jones plays his wife. See, I remember her. And she's great for her time on screen too. This is an interesting one, especially for Netflix to release. It's in 4:3, like traditional Hollywood kind of format, and just looked beautiful. I managed to see it in theaters. I wonder how it would play at home. I looked at it briefly, and I think it's obviously less immersive, especially how slow it is. But it's beautiful. It's like the most relaxing screensaver you could have on this Christmas season, but with an actual story that will touch and move you, and many dialogue scenes that are very well written and very well explored. I thought this was a wonderful movie. Do I see it winning Best Picture? No, but I do see it getting into the Best Picture race more than Frankenstein or Jake Kelly, simply because of how tightly wound it is. It's not messy. It's just a very clean glass of water that goes down and you feel good watching it. I didn't like it quite as much as Jake Kelly, but I liked it a lot more than Wicked for Good. Now, this is the biggest release of the week, and now I'm getting up and talking about it so I can ramble and rave. This was a hell of a viewing experience. First of all, I went to the new Screen X cinema in Innaloo. Now, if you haven't heard of this, I don't blame you. It's a cinema that has little projectors on the side to fill your peripheral vision, and it stretches the vision. So I went to see this with my grandma, who's over 80, and she thought it was interesting, but she didn't love it. I don't think either of us were blown away by this Screen X experience. It stretches the frame in an odd way where the peripheral visions are kind of blurrier and out of focus, and I hate to say maybe AI generated. I need to look into it, but that's how it looks. It really does look like a fuzzier, crappy version of the main screen. I think it's pretty cool when it's just filling your peripheral vision, but you can't stare directly at them. And sometimes they're not even on at all during the movie. I don't think I'll be seeing many films in this format. Much prefer 4DX, IMAX, VMAX, any of those other formats before this. Honestly, a regular screen probably better. But I thought I'll go see this for Wicked for Good because it's a big, lush musical. Be fun to watch on the big screen. And I rewatched Wicked 1 recently, and I liked it less than when I saw it in cinemas. And I think I appreciate it more after seeing this. Now, Wicked as a musical, it was the first musical I ever actually saw. And for whatever reason, I could not remember for the life of me Act 2. Watching this and reading reviews and responding to discourse about the film, I realized why I didn't remember Act 2, because it is really bad, and this movie makes it worse. So everything bad from the first film is here. You've got the terrible lighting, you've got everything being too bright, too oversaturated, too undersaturated, and washed out because of the lighting. You've got less expansive choreography. A lot of the songs are by Elphaba or Glinda, which that's the one thing I'll get off straight away and say Cynthia and Ariana are still brilliant and make the film worth seeing. And their scenes together and the one titular song for Good is brilliant. It's a good number, but like the previous film, most of the good stuff in the movie is blurred by terrible CGI. Really, really bad here, especially because there's more action scenes and more in-depth looks at Oz and the towns and what's happening with the animals. The animals are being sent away. There's no real reason why provided here. There's one line in the previous film that says, which is like Oz needs an enemy or whatever. Which reminds me, Jeff Goldblum and Michelle Yeoh are terrible in this movie. God awful. And they cannot sing for the life of them. I can't even remember if Michelle Yeoh tries to sing in this film. But Goldblum does a terrible job. Anyway, the whole reason Wicked for Good is unsuccessful is because that part of the musical is quite unsuccessful, in my opinion. It tries to tie in the Wizard of Oz and make it, a proper prequel to it. And this movie does that even more so than I say the musical, from what I've read and what I remember from a young boy seeing it. It's much more obvious, and because you're watching it on the cinema, you have that direct comparison to, the Technicolor masterpiece, The Wizard of Oz. And so seeing a CGI lion on screen voiced by Coleman Domingo is a lot more underwhelming way to meet the Cowardly Lion. Same goes for Tin Man, same goes for Scarecrow, and same goes for Dorothy, who we never see their face. It is a mess. It's a mess that looks bad, doesn't have enough musical sequences in it, doesn't take advantage of the pluribus of talent in the film. Friggin' the extras are better dancers than Jeff Goldblum and Michelle Yeoh. Honestly, this movie pissed me off because the first one at least ends on a high note. It has some sloppiness, has some bagginess, but at no point does this movie have a defiant moment like Defying Gravity. The closest is For Good, but otherwise, it's pretty slow, not a lot of musical sequences, more action scenes. I really felt I could not stop thinking about MCU watching this. This is the MCU-fication of a musical, this Wicked experiment, this two-part thing. And they didn't end on a high note at all. I thought this was terrible. I don't understand the messaging of the film itself. As I heard on Big Picture being exclaimed, I completely agree with those sentiments. And yeah, I just found it so underwhelming. It was overwhelmingly underwhelming. It was a wet fart of an ending, and there was no Defying Gravity. So yeah, it was pretty bad. It's one of the worst movies of the year. Maybe not. It's not a complete disaster. I hate it so much because of how much I like that original musical, and it makes me dislike the original musical in hindsight, to be honest. Yeah, kind of shat on everything I love about Oz and going to the movies. It felt artificial. I'm just going to keep naming bad adjectives to describe this movie. Anyway, so that's the podcast, I think, for this week. How long have we been recording for? Let's see. How long have we been recording for? 15 minutes. Yeah, 15 minutes. This is blocking the wind pretty efficiently. 15 minutes should be fine. Yeah, I guess I can sign off. I've been doing more paintings, been doing some recording, should be releasing a video anytime now. Hemm Productions is stalling a little bit, but this podcast isn't, because I just like to talk about movies. Yeah, I haven't been as in-depth. It turns out I'm not as good at just speaking off the cuff, but I think I talked well enough about all this shit today. 3 movies, go see them all. Just see the train wreck of Wicked for Good. I honestly want to hear more people's opinions, because I've seen plenty of positive response. None of my friends have seen it yet. I'm really curious to how this will go in the Oscars, because the last one had so many Oscar nominations, I should say. And I really wonder if the top 2 girls will get in, because there's no Popular and there's no Defying Gravity. Ariana and Cynthia don't have standout moments like in those films. So while they're brilliant and they, carry the film, it's the only reason worth seeing the movie, they don't have a standout Oscar moment. So I wonder what'll happen. There's 2 new songs written for this, because, that's the other thing. It's a super bloated movie, and they've written 2 new songs, and I could tell as they were singing that they were new because they were bad. Yeah, it's a very saggy film. Anyway, I cut into the intro to keep complaining, so that's probably the sign that I should sign off. So thanks for listening to the Hemm Productions podcast, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!